Okay, we have time for one more, Lily? Is that correct?
Yes.
We have time for one more, and we will go just straight down the line here again, and at that point we will move towards the closing statements. Keely?
This comes from a concerned citizen, and this is with regard to the sweetgrass basket makers. What would you do to create or provide on behalf of the sweetgrass basket makers on the market? Many are concerned that they are being forced out.
Forced out of the market, the city? I'm first. Well, that would just be disastrous. I mean, the whole idea of the city market. Really? I mean, how could that possibly be? I mean, that would be, I will be a mayor who, if that kind of a thing looked like it was going to happen, I would be down there. That couldn't happen. We can't let that happen. It's not like, oh, let's go like talk. No, you know, that is a situation. Some things are just so outrageously wrong. Right? You need a mayor who's going right down there to take care of business and make sure that doesn't happen.
I think that, first of all, that won't happen. Second, I can do something about it now. As a councilman, I don't have to wait until November. So if someone has an issue with respect to being forced out of the market, with respect to something that is so indigenous to our culture, let me know. I'll take care of it tomorrow. I'm serious. I mean, my constituent services, we will respond in 24 hours, 327-7900. Let us know.
Yeah, I think these folks are right. That's not going to happen, and I don't think anybody on the stage would let it happen. And so I think I'm not certain what the actual problem is. I'm not certain what the actual problem is, but it's one of those things that you associate with Charleston, and we're not going to. I don't think anybody on the stage will let that happen.
We're certainly unanimous. I would share with you that when I was Director of Economic Development at the city, part of our responsibility was the management of Building C, because the rest of the city market was privately managed at that time, and I guess still is today through a new agreement, a different group. But anyway, the city was directly responsible for Quarter C, and we were aware that local folks weren't getting the opportunity to be in the market, and so we initiated a Friday night market session where you didn't have to have been in the market for generations to have the ability to come in and set up shop and try to sell your wares, and we did that for Friday nights. I think now it's expanded for Friday and Saturday nights. The point being, it's critical, as I mentioned with my idea about local musical and cultural events, to promote local creative arts. Low Country Local does a great job. They have 600 members who create local products. The sweetgrass baskets are probably the primo example. It says Charleston, and like our music and our culture and our arts, we need to preserve and protect and promote those local things. Thank you so much.
Like all the other candidates, I would just say that ain't happening. Okay? And I will just say from personal experience, I've actually recently represented a vendor from the market who came to me with an issue, and it didn't take long, but I got the issue solved. And if I knew about this particular incident and somebody brought it to me, I would solve it.
I agree. So can I get away with ditto?
I think the sweetgrass basket's going to be okay. So, thank you very much, and again, fantastic work on the time here. We're going to move to our closing statements now. Each of the candidates will have 2 minutes to give their closing statements. We will start at the end here and just come down the line. At the close of this, hopefully you guys will be able to mingle about and chat with folks. And once again, thank you guys very much for coming out and supporting this and supporting the arts, because the arts really do matter, in particular in Charleston. And whoever the next mayor is, we want to make sure that we're there to support their efforts to support the arts. So, all you.
Well, thank you all again very much. You know, I think for starters, we need a mayor who, in their heart, believes that art is enormously important to what it is that we all love so much about Charleston and what we want to protect and build. I've been involved with the arts for a really long time, and a lot of my efforts have been centered around, you know, at different times, arts organizations hit bumps in the road. And I think that as mayor, it's going to be very important to have a mayor who is with you. And when, you know, I started with the Spoleto Festival in its first year, and I don't know if you read the article about, it was amazing, about the perseverance that people had in those early years. And the Young Charleston Theater Company, now Charleston Stage, you know, in its early years, I was on the board of, you know, the perseverance that it takes to keep going until you get to a more stable place. And so as mayor, I will look forward to working with you when you have challenges. Mayor Riley has been there in so many ways, I'm sure, for people across this audience. And oftentimes when, let's say, the symphony, remember when the symphony really was at a challenging time, Mayor Riley would pick up the phone. I would almost always be at that table. And in the case of the symphony, I just chipped in and wrote a development plan, a board development plan. You know, a variety, the ballet, unfortunately, you know, a variety of ways. So as mayor,
10 seconds.
I want to say to you that I understand the importance of art in our community, and I understand in a real way that you get to places where you need some help. It may not be a lot, but I will be there with you. I will be smart. I will be dedicated. I will be creative, and I look forward to working with every one of you to do more of what you do so well. Thank you very much.
Art is the lifeblood and the soul of this world-class city. It's made us what we are. It's not about what the mayor has done. It's about what we have done to make and put art on the forefront, not just in our community, but throughout the country. As mayor, I will continue along those lines. As a councilman, I have continually support the arts. We just recently did something with the School of the Building Arts. We just did funding for the Gibbons Museum. We continue to do funding for Piccolo Spoleto, as well as the Moju festivals and other festivals. So you will see that continue under a Gregorie administration, but you will also see that expanded to open, to make sure that we capture and provide opportunities for all the artists in our communities. Some artists in our communities are almost like an entitlement. When we compete for dollars, limited dollars, they continue to get the dollars. I want to open it up so that more people within our city have the opportunity to compete for those limited dollars so that we can spread and be much more expansive in terms of the kinds of arts that we do have in our world-class city. We need to deal with Old Man Smalls, who is about 90 now, who's been writing for about 25 or 30 years in several books. We need to turn his Wild Passion novel that depicts Charleston back in the late 1800s into a play. We talk about Porgy and Bess. There's so many artists in our communities that have been writing for years, and that's just on the writing side. We have painters that have done the same thing. So under Gregorie administration, you will see us opening up the doors to bring more people into the fold so that we can spread our message of how great Charleston is as a world-class art community.
Let me start by thanking you all for being here. I mean, having a forum like this dedicated exclusively to the arts in Charleston is so appropriate and so important. And putting it together, the great attendance, I know means a lot to me. It's a special event. You know, we have so many, are going to have so many, where we talk about everything under the sun, and all those things are important. But this is really important for Charleston. You know, I've heard two of my colleagues up here say a couple of things that I think are true. One said a couple of times that, you know, talk can be cheap. And the other, Mr. Tinkler said that, you know, when things are good, people support the arts. And I think both of those, again, are true. You know, what I would emphasize to you is that, you know, I have a proven record and history of supporting the arts, not just when times are good, though, but when times are really, really tough. And in government, that's not easy. And, you know, my time back on county council, while I was chairman there, we made accommodation tax funding to various arts festivals, including Spoleto and others, permanent funding, whereas in the past it had been year by year, and they didn't know if they were going to get money. We made it permanent. And that was a big thing, and it helps those festivals plan and it helps them succeed and excel, knowing that they have dedicated resources from the county. And in the legislature, it was much different. You know, we went through a very, very rough time as a country and as a state. And someone had to go to the well of the House and make the case that arts is not a luxury in our community, that it is a core function of government, and as such, it deserves funding, even in times of recession. And I did that, and I talked about the economic development benefits and job creation of the arts, talked about the educational opportunities that it creates for children, the increase in test scores, learning achievement, life achievement after they graduate. And then, of course, culturally, it's so important to who we are as a people here in Charleston and in South Carolina. These are all very, very important reasons why the arts needs to be a priority for the next mayor. And I have demonstrated that it's a priority for me. It will continue to be a priority. It will be, just as it was for me as a legislator and a council member, a core function of city government. We will work and support the arts every day. Not just when things are good and not just when things are bad, but we will be there all the time if I'm mayor of Charleston to support the arts here in Charleston. Thank you.
Thank you also to the Alliance and other sponsors who put this on this morning and having us, and thank you for being here. As I mentioned, it's been an avocation for me, but I'm an artist. I got this a tiny little slice of a gene from my grandmother. She taught piano lessons in Charleston for over 50 years, and her two brothers, I've spent a good bit of my adult life studying the wonderful jazz career of my two great uncles who were from Charleston. So I feel connected personally. I had a prelude before we started. I played a couple of songs, one being the Charleston because it's in sync with my promotion of local heritage and culture. But also I played On the Sunny Side of the Street. I believe our best days are yet to come for our community in general, but particularly for our creative and arts culture here in Charleston. My vision for Charleston is to be not in the top 10, but the #1 livable city in America. Not just the best place to visit, but the best place to live. And livability to me means many things, but it includes education of our kids and the ability to get around, mobility, and decent housing for our people. But it means recreation programs and arts, cultural arts in our community. And I've got the personal experience to know that it's hard to make a living as an artist. It's hard for community organizations to be sustainable as an arts organization. Space is important. I've learned that as a commercial realtor. Arts education in our schools is critical. And also, it's an important part of business. As I mentioned, $1.5 billion economic impact from the art. But the most important thing is the uplifting of the human spirit. And I've felt this in my life, that connection of the human and the divine. And if cities are all about increasing livability and making this a better place to live, it's got to support the arts and that connection between us and our collective consciousness. So I will be a fierce advocate for the arts in Charleston as mayor. I will be. And I ask you to join me and support me in making Charleston the #1 livable place in America. Thank you very much.
Aristotle said the aim of art is to represent not the outward appearance of things, but their inward significance. I say that a community that embraces the arts is not merely existing, but thriving. As I mentioned earlier, Libby and I came to Charleston in 1978 in part because we were inspired by the art of Charleston with the New Spoleto Festival. Others have come to Charleston with the Spoleto Festival and decided to stay. One good example is Sam Sheffer, who's in the audience. And we obviously are doing something right if we can attract and keep that kind of talent here in our community. Joe Riley brought the festival here in 1977 and thus began a renaissance in Charleston, not unlike the one in the 1930s that inspired Porgy and Bess. Out of Spoleto emerged Piccolo Spoleto, which highlighted the local and regional artists. Thank you, Ellen Marl, who's also present here today. And Mojo, celebrating our rich African roots. These festivals supplement our existing artistic institutions such as the Gibbons, the Symphony, and Charleston Stage. And many others have grown up around this burgeoning, thriving art industry here in Charleston. All of this artistic activity has given us a city that is thriving, not merely existing. As mayor, I will continue in the spirit of Joe Riley to support the arts. Thank you.
I was born and raised right here in Charleston, one of 10 kids. Both my father and stepfather were sanitation workers for the city of Charleston. And they actually introduced us to art. We lived at 38D Gaston Green Public Housing. Across the street, Riddlebank Park was the city's dumping site. To protect the minds of her children, our mother referred to the site as Treasure Island. And we bought into it. And little did we know back then that we were actually being exposed to art. First drum came from that dumping site. Keyboard, paintings, things of that nature. They didn't know that they were exposing us to the arts. But over time, we grew to realize that. As an 8-year member of City Council, I fought hard for full funding for the arts, kept a close eye as chairman of the Ways and Means Committee on requests, budget requests coming from our Cultural Affairs Office. Given that they are responsible for promoting Charleston through the arts. So if elected mayor, you will have a partner in me. I will have your back. I will fund you through community development block grant funds, through hospitality fee funds, through tourism ticket funds, and through general funds. In return, I will hold you accountable for having the backs of our citizens and our children and our schools. And I think that would be a fair exchange. Again, thank you all for allowing this opportunity. I very much enjoyed it.
Thank you all very much. It's fantastic that you guys were all able to come out here, show your support for the arts. Thank you, Keely and Josh, for serving as our panelists, Lily for everything you do, our sponsors, Charleston Mag, ifyouweremayor.com, and this wonderful venue at Woolfe Street Playhouse. But most importantly, thank you to all of you, the arts producers and consumers. Without you guys, the arts don't matter, but because you're here, because you're supported, the arts matter. And thank you for your support. Thank you for coming out today, and continue to stay involved in arts and everything Charleston. Thank you very much.